Good morning. Please note I have started recording for this pre-proposal meeting. Hello and welcome to the pre-proposal meeting for the RFP Denver Climate Action Marketing, Communications, and Engagement Services with the Office of the Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency Office, referred to as CASR. Please remember to keep your mute on during the meeting as it will be helpful for any outside disruptions. If you use the call-in number today, *6 will mute and unmute your phone. My name is Regina Diaz, and I will be the contract administrator for this project. I also have on the line today the project manager, Chelsea Warren, and Megan Kelly with the Division of Small Business and Opportunity, DSBO. This PowerPoint went out this morning in the Communications tab via BidNet for anyone to follow along if they're not able to join the Teams link. I will now hand it over to DSBO to go over the MWBE goals and the DSBO requirements for this project.
Great, thank you so much. As Regina said, my name is Megan Kelly. I'm with the Division of Small Business Opportunity, which is a division of the City and Counties of Denver's Economic Development and Opportunity Agency. For the duration of this project, I will be ensuring compliance with the city's minority and women business enterprise requirements. DSBO's mission is to be the bridge that promotes and improves the participation and engagement of small businesses through the creation and implementation of programs, thereby achieving an equitable Denver economy. You can go to the next slide. DSBO's purpose and objective is to create and expand contract opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses. We do that by certifying firms, conducting outreach, providing technical assistance, establishing participation goals, supporting increased opportunity for certified firms to perform as primes on projects, and ensuring compliance throughout the life cycle of contracts. You can go to the next slide. So aligning with DSBO's mission to promote and improve access for the city's small, minority, and women-owned business community, DSBO has established a MWBE requirement for this project of 12%. This amount is the minimum percent of the project's budget that must be paid to businesses certified by the City and County of Denver as MWBE firms. MWBE participation may be met by subbing to MWBE firms through an MWBE prime contractor self-performance or through your demonstration of a good faith effort. For MWBE credit, firms must be certified with the City and County of Denver in the scope of work that they perform. You can find a directory of MWBE certified firms and their certified scopes of work at denvergov.org/DSBO. That website is also listed within the RFP. Please read the MWBE information carefully because each submitter must comply with these requirements and accompanying rules and regulations during the proposal process and during the performance of work on the contract. Again, please be aware that the selected firms need to be certified by the City and County of Denver. Certification by other municipalities or under other programs will not count for purposes of participation credit on this project. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. You must complete and include with your proposal the commitment to MWBE participation form, an MWBE EDI plan, and or a good faith effort documentation if you are committing to less than the full goal amount of 12%. The proposer's committed participation level will be inserted into the contract language, and they will be held to that participation amount during contract performance. Please be aware that MWBE certified proposers are not exempt from these submission requirements. To meet the minimum responsiveness requirements for the proposed MWBE EDI plan, the proposer must submit with their bid a separate document titled MWBE EDI plan, wherein each MWBE EDI plan category is meaningfully addressing in its own enumerated section of the plan. See pages 16 through 18 of the RFP for the EDI plan categories. The EDI plan and the management of such firms should be innovative, comprehensive, open, and transparent in its approach. And it must make a significant impact through the promotion of equity, diversity, and inclusion to improve opportunities for certified firms. Go to the next slide. Please note that the elements of the EDI plan have been updated recently. The above slide is the most recent criteria. The MWBE EDI plan will be scored against these 8 elements, which are fully detained in the procurement documents. Again, the RFP pages 16 through 18. These elements are identifying an MWBE coordinator, MWBE utilization strategies to increase the participation of MWBEs, technical assistance and support services to help move the next generation of small businesses, the procurement process, which are the principles used throughout this process to remove barriers remove barriers for small firms, communication strategies for communication and vendor management, examples of past performance successes, the proposer's culture, and future initiatives to promote equity, diversity, and inclusion both internally and externally. Please be aware that DSBO went through an ordinance reauthorization, and 2 major changes were to the contractor prompt pay ordinance. City contracts in the amount of $1 million or more require payments to MWBEs within 35 days of an approved invoice, regardless of whether you, the prime, has been paid. For further details, please see that ordinance section 28-135 in the DRMC. The second component of the ordinance reauthorization changes were the termination, substitution, and reduction in scope section. So a contractor or consultant must have good cause to terminate, substitute, or reduce the scope of an MWBE certified firm. Before any such action can take place, reducing or terminating a sub, you must have approval from DSBO first. So for further details, again, please see the ordinance section 28-136 in the DRMC. Next, thank you. All right, so contractors and consultants are strongly encouraged to begin networking and engaging now to identify partnerships for the duration of this project. You can locate the list of MWBE certified firms again at denvergov.org/DSBO. Again, I want to remind and reemphasize that firms need to be certified by the City and County of Denver. And as an element of the EDI plan, proposers will be scored on their level of effort, engagement, and commitment. So please begin engaging now and documenting any intentional and substantial efforts. You can go to the next slide. Here is my contact information and our division's website where you can find any additional information and resources. Please feel free to reach out to me with any general questions about our program. During the open submission period, please direct questions about the project's proposal requirements to Regina, who will communicate my replies via addendum. We also strongly encourage you to refer to a self-guided online video training resource entitled Small Biz Big Wins, Mastering Small Business Procurement Requirements, designed to help you, the primes, to be successful on small business requirements for the city procurements. It does take less than an hour and it is highly recommended. And that link will bring you right to it. And then just wanted to see if there are any questions at this time. Otherwise, please submit them to Regina and I'll respond formally via addendum.
Thank you, Megan.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any questions for Megan at this time? Okay, I will now hand it over to Chelsea Warren, the project manager for this project, to go for an overview of work.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I just wanted to thank everybody for jumping on. I know it's after a holiday weekend and there's a lot of you here. And so just my sincerest thanks for jumping on this morning. So I'm going to start with who are we? So as you'll hear, You've heard before, CASR is our acronym, and that stands for Denver's Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. We're Denver's newest office. We were created in 2020, and our mission is to act with urgency to advance science-based strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, cultivate resiliency in the face of potential climate change-related emergencies, and secure an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable city for generations to come. So just some of our programs is we have rebates for e-bikes and for heat pumps. We have solar, both community solar gardens and incentives for nonprofits, businesses, and homeowners to get the benefits of solar. And then we're also investing in green workforce training programs. Next slide. So an overview of this RFP is CASR is seeking the professional services of a team of partners to assist with the paid, earned, social, digital, engagement, and event strategy that will amplify the mission and vision of our department, promote specific programs and services, and connect with Denver residents through innovative needs. That innovative needs is really important to us. We're really looking for something that's really like out of the box thinking, right? Not the same old kind of government marketing campaigns you've seen in the past. The purpose of this RFP is to provide $3 million over 3 years to create behavior change marketing campaigns. Next slide. So let's go a little bit more into the project details. Next slide. So why focus on behavior change? So to zoom out, 71% of Denver residents reported being very worried or somewhat worried about climate change, but we know that 64% of Denver residents also said that they rarely or never discuss the subject with their friends and family, which is a huge discrepancy. We also know across a variety of studies, so each one of these is linked to like the source, but the most effective way to implement climate change mitigation behaviors is through social norming and financial incentives. So like I mentioned earlier, we have a variety of financial incentives, and we're really looking to partner it with some social norming and behavior change campaigns. We know that the best predictor of climate action over belief in climate change, political orientation, and demographics is whether the individuals believe others are adopting the behaviors. So if everyone else goes on, the best indicator if a house is going to go solar is if everybody else on the street went solar, or you're in line at the store and everyone else has a reusable bag and you don't, you're going to probably remember your reusable bag next time. On the right, you'll see a chart, and you'll see here that this was a study that was done across multiple kind of looking at it. And you'll see on the most effective one was social comparison, and education is dead last. So that's why we're really focused on changing behavior through social norming. Next slide. A successful campaign would look like, we would establish a social norm in Denver that people are taking climate action. Again, we know that most people are very concerned about climate action or climate change in Denver, but that they're not talking about it. We want to create trusted messengers to improve the frequency of which people talk about climate action, tackle misinformation. We want to utilize best practices in the area of behavior and climate science. You'll see in the RFP that we really see this as a partnership between data and marketing. So we really know if we're moving the needle. Denver residents know that their tax dollars in the city and county of Denver are taking actions on climate change. Next slide. So this is a multi-year campaign. We'll target what behaviors have the highest readiness and potential for behavior change. Market research, which is part of this RFP, will determine what topics to focus on. Topics include, but are not limited to, renewable energy, electrification, and energy efficiency. So that's, for example, encouraging people to go solar or switching from natural gas to electric for heating and cooling and cooking. So that's like induction stoves or heat pumps. Transportation, so buying an electric vehicle, encouraging cycling and walking, or reducing single occupancy vehicle trips. Resource management, so that could be reducing consumption of single-use plastic or reducing water in landscaping. Or it could be around green jobs, encouraging young adults to consider careers in areas where there are known labor shortages, such as electricians. So if you've been following the Inflation Reduction Act, it kind of calls for electrify everything, which calls for a lot of electricians, but electricians are going to retire in the next 10 years, a vast majority of them, right? So again, these are a variety of topics. and we really want to look at the research on like where's the potential that marketing specifically could move the needle, right? So like our e-bike rebate program sells out within 5 minutes every time, so it probably doesn't need a marketing campaign. And so we really want to see like where are the opportunities and then execute either one campaign or multiple campaigns. Next slide. Goals, we want to increase participation in our programs and services, especially in historically under-resourced communities. I didn't really go into it in this presentation, but our office oversees the Climate Protection Fund, which is a $40 million a year of fund that is urgently working on the climate crisis. And we aspire that over 50% of that is going to be geared toward communities that will disproportionately feel the effects of climate change. And so you'll see a lot through this RFP that we really want to be focusing on these historically under-resourced communities. Other goals include increasing understanding of climate action strategies in Denver and actions individuals can take, increase a sense of pride, place, and belonging in a city dedicated to a healthier, more resilient future, and increase the frequency of meaningful touchpoints and voluntary participant. Next slide. Again, the budget for the scope of work is to not exceed $3 million over the course of 3 years. Contract budgets are $3 million total for 3 years. Each proposer is expected to submit a detailed budget that shows how they will complete the scope of work. The city reserves the right to offer the chosen proposer one or more extensions of the contract for up to additional 2 years for an additional $2 million. Next slide. And then I'm back to Regina. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chelsea. Next are the requirements for this RFP. Can everyone hear me okay? I know I had a couple of people in the chat saying that they weren't able to hear. So if you can't hear me, just drop a line in the chat and I'll speak louder or more clearly. The requirements for this RFP are as follows. The diversity and inclusiveness in the city solicitations information request form must be completed, and a copy is to be returned with the proposal. Please ensure the email address for the city contact is regina.diaz@denvergov.org. I have also made this a required document for you to upload in BidNet when you submit your proposal. If this form is not submitted with your proposal, you'll be found non-responsive and unfortunately will not be able to move forward with your proposal. Please note the required insurance are non-negotiable. The city does not negotiate insurance requirements or contract insurance language, and any objections not raised formally in the solicitation process are waived. Review the sample agreement, attachment 1, for the required insurance amounts under paragraph 9, insurance of this RFP. The required insurance are as follows: commercial general liability, business auto, workers' compensation, and cyber liability. If you have any additional questions regarding the insurance, please submit your question via BidNet. Please see page 9 for the proposal requirements for this RFP. You will upload one electronic PDF document with items 1 through 8 addressed. Please make sure you're addressing each one and attaching the required information in your proposal. In addition to uploading one PDF document, you will upload the diversity and inclusiveness form, the DSBO form, commitment to MWBE. Please make sure you are checking the correct boxes to meet the 12% MWBE goal, and this form is signed. You will then upload the MWBE EDI plan. Please refer to page 16 in the RFP, number 5, on how to complete the MWBE EDI plan for this project. When this RFP was posted, a list of certified firms was also sent out. Please make sure you team up with an MWBE certified firm to meet the 12% goal, or you might be found non-responsive for this RFP. I can't stress this enough that if any of the required forms are not completed correctly, you could be found non-responsive and will not be able to move forward in the procurement process. If you have any questions on the required forms, please make sure you submit your questions via BidNet by the question deadline. We want to make sure everyone is successful in this process, and it's very important that all questions get answered by the question deadline. Once the question deadline has passed, we will not be able to answer any questions. Deadlines. So the deadlines for this RFP to submit your questions is September 15th by 10 a.m. local time. CASR will respond to all the questions by September 19th. The submissions are due October 25th by 10 a.m. Again, I can't stress this enough to allow yourself enough time to upload your documents. If you are in a different time zone, make sure you put a reminder on your calendar when these are due. BidNet automatically closes the RFP at 10 a.m. local time. And if you're still uploading your documents at 10 a.m., it'll lock you out. And the RFP will no longer, you will no longer be able to submit your RFP for this project. Just know if this happens, we are not able to accept any late submissions. Please make sure you complete the proposer's checklist on page 39 of the RFP to ensure you don't miss anything. And just a friendly reminder, all communication must be directed to myself, Regina Diaz, at the provided email in the RFP as the designated contact. Please make sure you don't reach out to the project manager or anyone from our department who is involved in this RFP from the date of issuance and prior to the completion of the selection process. This is considered an open procurement until we have an executed contract in place. It ensures we keep the process fair for everyone who is interested in this project. Please note that a proposer may be disqualified from further participation in the selection process at the city's sole discretion if the communication is directed to anyone other than myself during open procurement. BidNet. So on BidNet is the program that we use for question and answers and so that you can submit your proposals. It's also known as Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system and is where everything needs to be submitted. If you are not registered with BidNet, it is free to sign up. If you go to our resources for contractors on our website, there are detailed guides to help you through the process. I have also included a link on this presentation for your reference. When you go to our website, please scroll all the way to the bottom to find these resources. Later today, I will post a list of firms that have downloaded the RFP and BidNet under the Communications tab titled Solicitation Document Report. Make sure you have the correct contacts listed for your firm to be on this list. You must download the RFP to be considered a document holder. Please try to do that as soon as possible so you can be added to this list if you don't have an account with BidNet yet and would like to be added to this list. Just send me an email with your contact information to regina.diaz@denvergov.org. Please make sure you let me know if you're a prime or an MWBE certified firm. I would now like to open it up to anyone on the line today that has questions.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Within the budget, are incentives and any of the other potential expenditures, should those be included within that $3 million total? Or is that a separate budget or a line item on your end?
Yeah, so incentives are covered under the Climate Protection Fund and aren't part of the scope of this work. This would be just for marketing, engagement, communication efforts.
Got it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ian.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure if my audio.
Yes.
This is aimed at you, Chelsea. You mentioned that obviously the e-bike program is already getting enough eyes on it. Where are the places that people feel underutilized? What are the campaigns that need more?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I really see that under task one is really doing the research, both with our teams and with the community to see where the gaps are. So the e-bike program is an easy one to point out just because it's selling out so quickly, but we're not seeing that across the board. And so the first task is really like data collection. It's about meeting our teams, seeing where the gaps are, seeing what's coming down the pipeline, and creating campaigns from that data. Does that answer your question? Heather?
Speaking of campaigns, how many campaigns are you anticipating? Are you anticipating one per year in year 2 or 3, or are you anticipating multiple campaigns?
I think it could go either way based on the research, right? Like, where is the biggest opportunity for change and where do we need to put those dollars? So is that one campaign? Is that several campaigns? Is it like a very hyper-focused campaign, like several hyper-focused campaigns? We decided to, so we could have done this RFP 2 ways, right? We could have done the research and then gone out to bid and been like, hey, this is what we see as the gaps. But we really wanted to have it combined so that data partner could be there throughout the length of the process and could kind of help you pivot as need be. And so again, it would come after the research stage, which is in task 1 of the RFP.
Okay, so it's up to us to recommend based on the research how many campaigns and then somehow correlate that with a detailed budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I wanted to know if you have a preference for contractors who have completed similar projects locally or nationally also.
I think there's no requirement, but there's always going to be a benefit to people who have done behavior change campaigns before, who have done climate change things before, who have familiarity with the Denver market. Like, all of those things are pluses, but we don't have any like requirements in the RFP. They're definitely going to always help, I think, if like you have that expertise in any of those, working with climate change, working with the Denver community, or working with behavior change marketing campaigns. Ian?
In the RFP, you also mentioned misconceptions, and I wanted to just get some clarification. What are some of the miscommunications and misconceptions, excuse me, that you currently are dealing with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one that pops up to our head is that heat pumps don't work in cold weather. So heat pumps are just a device that heats and cools your home, and they use electricity instead of natural gas. And there's a lot of misinformation out there in terms of like they don't work in cold weather, which isn't true when Norway is the leading heat pump. Like, Norway has more heat pumps than natural gas furnaces, right? So that speaks volumes to like if they work in cold weather. So that's the one that kind of pops up in terms of my like things. My coworker Emily Gideon is on as well. I don't know if you have any other kind of misconceptions, misinformations that are popping into your head.
Some of the misconceptions can be around certain specifics of like policies and programs that we have in place, especially, I think I would say what Chelsea has touched on is the biggest area of misunderstanding among the public. Just moving away from fossil fuels to heat and cool our home, or even just the fact that buildings and homes are such a large source of greenhouse gas emissions in Denver. I think there's very low awareness or activity around it or knowledge of some of the solutions. And there are some pretty vocal messengers who share just some things that aren't necessarily true, that there's going to be requirements that would require you to like take perfectly good new equipment out of your home and replace it with electric appliances. That's not true. It's at the end of useful life. We're trying to think through ways about getting people more comfortable with thinking through their appliances in their home before it becomes an emergency situation where they just have to really quickly put in a new appliance. So that's some a misperception to a new social norm that we've been thinking about in the scope of this RFP. I think the other one we're really interested in learning more and getting more data about would relate to some of our green workforce programs. Like, what are the things that people perceive as green jobs? folks might even not necessarily think about being an electrician as a green job, but electricians are going to be crucial to the build out of a clean energy economy in Denver and across the United States. But it also spans into things like resource management and forestry. So there's lots of different options for different people, especially young people in green workforce. And that's a big thing that we're trying to find pathways to talk to more people about or reach people on. So the biggest, back to your original question, misconception or perception issue, I would say, is around buildings and homes and their impact on our greenhouse gas emissions and some of the solutions and people's understanding of those. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of maybe purposeful misunderstandings around what that transition will look like.
Brandon, I had your hand up next.
Yeah, thanks. I had a quick question about the MBWE requirement. You guys had provided a list of approved vendors up on the bids website. Are we required to partner with one of those entities, or can we partner with any MBWE registered business to fulfill the 12% requirement?
So how that works, I did send that out as a kind of like a courtesy, so you kind of knew the certified firms with the city of Denver. They do have to be MWBE certified through the city of Denver. So you do have to pull from the current list, which there's a link that was provided in this PowerPoint. I just kind of initially sent that out so that everybody could kind of get a heads up of who they could maybe potentially team with. Did that answer your question, or did you need a little bit more information?
No, that answered it. Thank you.
Okay.
Paul?
So, Paul?
Oh, go ahead, Regina. Did you have some?
Yep.
Sorry.
There's a mention of a focus on involving under-resourced communities in the RFP. Is that specifically communities of color or communities that may require a secondary language for their marketing efforts?
That's a great question. So we left it pretty broad, but if you look under, and I can drop the link in for our climate protection fund, it's communities that are disproportionately going to feel the effects of climate change. And so a lot of times that is communities of color, communities who speak English as a second language. It also is like older adults. It's also, lower income families. And so I can drop that in, but we left it kind of broad because there's a lot of overlaps there. But yeah, it's not just communities who don't speak English as a first language. Next, I have Paul.
Oh, I just went, yeah.
Paul, you just went, sorry. Ian.
My apologies for so many questions. And Emily, your background photo is awesome. I wanted to you obviously have like a really robust internal communication team. I wanted to ask how you foresaw, whoever receives this RFP integrating with the internal team. What would you like to see from that?
Well, this is our first big RFP, so I think a lot of it will be figuring out how we want to work as a team. We know that we don't have the capacity to do big ad buys and things like that, right? So we're always going to lean on partners more than that. I think it's really just it's a partnership. We own a lot of really strong native channels, and so we'd be looking for copy and graphics to put natively, the strategy natively, to like our own channels, and then looking towards you to really just amplify our outreach and to really own those ad buys and to provide assistance as needed. Did I answer your question? Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just add on one thing here. Yeah, we do have, as Chelsea mentioned, really strong owned channels. We have a large email list. Like, we have a good audience, like thanks to our e-bikes program. And some of the other great programs we have. We have a strong media relations capacity in-house, and we also have a lot of awareness of, you know, kind of what some of the other city departments are doing, and we need to factor that in with our partner and what type of message we would ultimately move forward with, all of those things. But we would be, figuring out a little bit about the best way to work together in process. But we definitely are looking for, you know, firms, people who have ideas outside of the box about what we might have traditionally done, new channels, new places to reach people, because, you know, and with government communications, we have a couple of things that we own and that we do, but we're really excited to think outside the box here. So we're, you know, our internal comms team can provide a good foundation, and we're looking for partners to help us kind of reach a whole different level.
Clayton?
Hi there. This is Clayton Bartzak from the Institute for the Built Environment at CSU. I'm curious, the RFP indicated that CASR would provide, as part of the pre-proposal meeting, an opportunity for organizations without a teaming partner to meet and form a partnership and submit a joint proposal. So I'm curious if there's a plan for a separate meeting, or if there's a way for organizations to share whether they're seeking to lead a team or support a team as a way to help facilitate creating partnerships.
Regina?
Okay, so our efforts in this kind of platform is kind of to let you know the MW that you need to work with an MWBE certified firm, and how I sent out the list in BidNet. And then what I'll do at the end of the day is I'll send out that solicitation, kind of people who are interested in the project. I'll give you the resources of who you could possibly team with. It would take way too much time today to try to team on this particular call, so no, there won't be another meeting. I can provide you the resources. You can ask any question you want today in this platform. If you're looking to team with somebody, drop it in the chat. And, you know, we could put a list out there of, you know, these are the primes who are interested in teaming. I can do something like that. You can submit questions in BidNet on any type of teaming questions, because for this project, since it does have a MWBE 12% goal, you do have to team with a certified firm. I can't stress that enough. And if you need help with that, I can reach out to the DSBO person, and, you know, they can help you team with somebody too if you're not finding somebody on the list. There's a bunch of ways we can go about doing that. Let me know via BidNet a question. If you need more follow-up, you can drop something here in the chat real quick. If you need more information, always happy to help.
Great, thank you.
All right, I think that chat's about to get really busy, so I will jump over to Tanya.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tanya Peters, and Chelsea, you had mentioned about, you know, your very intentional decision to combine both the research and the communications outreach campaign as a unified bid or RFP proposal. And my question really comes down to like that formative research connected to the evaluation. Is the intent that you want that same organization that has experience in collecting formative research directly related to behavior change to then also carry through the campaign effort or the building effort into the evaluation? Kind of question number one. And then what would be some of those success metrics when you say you're looking to, you know, measure and monitor behavior change in that evaluation? Would that formative research team be looking for to make sure that they could measure behavior change at that end of the 3 years, which, as we all know, is a short period of time for behavior change?
Yeah, 3 years will go really quickly. That's a great question. I see the behavior change or data collection, or if the marketing firm has that capacity in-house, which I know some of the bigger ones do, to be a partner throughout, right? And so that's part of how we want to measure it, right? It's not just measuring like hits on a web page. We do want to measure if there's behavior change happening in the identified campaign areas. And so they would be the partner throughout. we have in the first task that part of the task 1 is figuring out what metrics we can measure throughout the life of the campaign. Like, what are we going to measure in year 3, or if there's extensions in year 4 and year 5, to really measure the impact of these. And I also, want to push that, like, if something flops, that we can be nimble and be like, this isn't moving the needle, we need to pivot to something else, right? And so I think a behavior change campaign, behavior change data collection partnered with marketing is such a strong partnership, because then it's like, well, what do we ask focus groups so that we know this going in? Does that answer your question, both questions?
Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Ian?
You had mentioned a sizable email list, and if you're not unable to share this information, I fully understand. Do you have ideas as far as demographics for that, what the response rate is, and how large that is?
Yeah, so our distro is about 40,000 right now, and a majority of those people came from the e-bike rebate. So it's actually pretty spread across demographic wise. We do have people opting out all the time, right? There's plenty of people who are like, I got my money, I'm gonna move on, which is totally fine. So 40,000, and our open rate is about 50%. And I do not have more demographics from that. We're not collecting that many demographics in our sign form. But again, a lot of those people are like climate ambassadors, so they're really strong in terms of sustainability, which might not necessarily maybe be the audience we want to target, right? Like those eco warriors might already be on board. And so I do think that email list is really strong. It's definitely one of the strongest in the cities, but we're really looking for, like, how can we get into more spaces and have the climate dialogue be more widespread in the city and county of Denver? Kelly.
Hi, I have a question on task 1 of the SOW. One of the line items is consider polling residents in similar cities before and after to help measure a behavior change shift. Could you talk to that just a little bit? Give us some more context there.
Yeah, so we worked on this RFP, like a lot of the language, with Yale School of Climate Communications, who's kind of one of the leading voices in this space. And that was something they recommended. I did put it down as a potential, right? And so I think there's something about, like, hey, can we measure? But a good way to potentially partner or to measure behavior change could be looking at a similarly sized city and seeing if our campaign was the one that moved the needle, right? We know that the Inflation Reduction Act is coming online, which has millions of dollars going to different cities and states. Like, there's things that are outside of our scope. So that might be a way to really measure, can we see if behavior change was the part that moved the needle here? So again, I put it down as a potential option for kind of how people could approach this work.
Great, thank you.
All right, we have plenty of time if anybody still has any more questions. I really appreciate all these questions so far.
Jen?
Jen. Jen?
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I think
Yes.
I was muted. Okay.
Okay, it happens.
My name's Jen. I'm colleagues with Clayton at the Institute for the Built Environment at Colorado State University. And my question is about, so earlier you shared some of the community survey results that are going to help inform this effort. They helped to inform the RFP clearly. I'm wondering if that data will be available to this team, and if there is any other research that's already been completed by CASR to understand the community and the market, including historically under-resourced communities. Any other information that the team will be able to review to help inform this as well.
So all those, the data I provided in there is all hyperlinked. It's all like nationally done research, and so it's all publicly available. In terms of information that's available, CASR was created in 2020, so a lot of this research is being done now, or it's kind of being done by best practices. And so I would say that the chosen firms and partners would definitely have the opportunity to meet with everybody and really start to dig in deeper to what data is available. I'm going to defer to Emily real quick if there's any data that's coming to your mind that maybe we could provide additionally. Emily?
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself.
Okay.
The other data that I would, that is not public necessarily, but that we would share with our team of partners is some feedback that we have that we collected through a series of about 30 focus groups that we did in Denver's Nest neighborhoods over 2022 and early 2023 about, it was sort of a broad temperature check with a couple different audiences in each of those Nest neighborhoods. It was with youth, some adults, and some of the neighborhood-based organizations. So we had a couple different audiences we did focus groups with in each of those Nest neighborhoods to learn about people's relationship to the city of Denver government, thoughts about what are barriers to access in terms of climate action in the community. So we have done a number of focus groups, and these were mostly for internal sort of program planning purposes. But so this isn't external data, but we would walk through with our partners some of what we've learned from those focus groups for sure.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Ian?
Is my mic on? I really hope this is my last question. What you obviously have a ton of initiatives that you're currently in the process of going through. Is there some that are not on the website or some that are upcoming in the next 3 years that we should be aware of going forward?
I think everything we can share is on the website. We are significantly growing out our adaptation team in the next couple of months. And so, but I would say that they're going to grow their team and then bring programs online. And so adaptation and resiliency is kind of my big, I'm not sure what's going to come out of that team, but everything else should be online. And then I think, frankly, like some of the teams don't know what they're going to do next, right? We have a really big sustainability advisory council, which is over 100 people that kind of advise, and a lot of really great ideas come through them sometimes, and those will lead to programs. So yeah, everything else should be on the website with more work coming from adaptation and resiliency in the coming year. Richard?
Yeah, this is kind of a general question, so I apologize, but I'm actually not located in Denver. So I just kind of wanted to see if you could give me almost a city that you think would be closely comparable to Denver. Again, we work in a lot of markets, with a lot of utilities, but I guess I'm just trying to, without Googling, just see who you guys would say you compare to, just so I could see if we had any clients in that area just for campaigns that we've run in the past.
The first one that pops into my head is Portland, because Portland has also a climate protection fund. So we have the second in the nation and Portland has number 1. I don't know if they're actually comparable in size, but they do have a similar kind of funding mechanism, also kind of a similar kind of like outdoorsy, kind of somewhat transplant, some native population. Emily, do you have a better comparison of who you'd compare us to?
Yeah, a few other cities that come to mind would be Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, just from sort of a geography location, not necessarily in terms of like climate action or activities. Minneapolis might be more closely aligned to us there. Boston, Massachusetts, and Austin, Texas, I think would also be ones communities that would be worth looking at as well.
And I put that in the chat for everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Rob?
Yeah, there's a question. Those cities you just mentioned, are they worth looking at for their programs, for their climate resiliency programs, or for the outreach that they're doing?
I would say for the climate and resiliency programs that they're doing, maybe minus Salt Lake City. I know a little bit less about Salt Lake. They're doing, I think they're probably one of the closest cities in terms of like a geographic comparison. But they are doing some good, I think, transportation and heat work. But the other cities are ones that I know have some pretty active city climate teams and are working on policies and programs that are similar to Denver's.
Thanks.
Smaller city, smaller community, but Ann Arbor, Michigan is also doing a lot on the climate front.
Any other questions?
Well, it looks like we answered everybody's questions, and I am taking notes of everybody who's wanting to partner in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll send out another document that has that information of who's interested in partnering with somebody. I think that'll be helpful. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you again for your interest in this RFP. This concludes our pre-proposal meeting for today. Thanks and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.